Well, we'll get to the nuke in a little bit, but I need to give some of the other details first, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what this man said to me is the only thing can be done about it. Now, these safety devices, there's one of them down there called a fail-safe valve. Anybody in the oil business will recognize this immediately. The fail-safe valve is the one that's supposed to hold if everything else holds and all of the other safety devices blow. This one is supposed to hold. This is what I'm about to give right now. Has never been told anywhere, and you'll never hear it unless you happen to go to the BP informant that I had, and they said to me, they said, Chaplain, there was a conversation between the worker and the foreman on the rig not long before the blast took place, and the worker said to the foreman, the fail-safe valve is warped. There is a defective in it. We've got to replace it before we go any further. The foreman on the oil platform said to the worker, we don't have time. Let's continue going. It was just after that the Gulf of Mexico oil well flowed, and it is flowing today approximately 4 million gallons a day, along with the fishers.
Now, they have been caught. First they said it was 5,000, then 20,000, then 100,000, then 500,000. You're saying it's millions of gallons from your BP source.
That is correct.
Well,
now, will BP be able to stop the flow of the oil? You ready? Now, this comes.
well, wait, that makes sense, though, the way they're keeping the media back, boy, and being suspicious. So you're saying this is a super mega disaster?
This is a super mega disaster of something that the United States of America has never experienced and the world has never experienced. And the pressures on this well were so extreme compared to even what Russia hit years ago in that cold.
Well, I've got to say it. You know, I mean, Lindsey Williams, it does seem like America, the whole world seems like it's cursed now. All the bad things that are happening constantly.
Well, BP has tried everything. Yeah, you're right. BP has tried everything in their power to stop this well. They've used every scientific method that they can. But the truth of the matter is, this individual said to me, he said, there's only one thing that is going to stop this. And he said it's a nuclear device. But he immediately said, but. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if we angle drill and put in a nuclear device and blow what is presently there, he said, if we get success, we'll be the heroes of the world. He said, Chaplain, I am scared, and I could hear it in his voice. He said, if we explode that nuclear device and this strata of oil, which nobody has ever drilled into one with this pressure before, he said, if we fail and we rupture that strata further than what it already is, and plumes have been reported as much as 5 and 20 miles away, and I'll read them to you in just a moment or two. He said, if we rupture that strata further with that nuclear device, he said, Chaplain, I don't even want to think about it.
Well, more and more evidence does point towards abiotic oil because the old oil wells are filling back up. It is being generated. It is coming from somewhere. Of course, they do find coal that has ferns in it. It's clear that there is some oil that is produced from dead plankton and things that they find, natural gas from the petroleum geologist I've talked to out in the ocean at shallower depths that they do believe did come from rotting plant and animal life, but that there is another type of oil. Look, it's a big debate. We'll continue with Lindsey Williams, and I promise we're going to get to this fella that says he's a petroleum geologist on the other side. I've never heard him this concerned, saying, listen, Alex, I got a lot more to tell you. We haven't even gotten to the real meat and potatoes yet. Well, I thought that was the meat and potatoes. Again, I don't want to hear what he's about to say next, because they are acting freaked out about this, and that sucker is a lot bigger than what they first said, and they just can't cap it. They won't cap it. Then you got the federal response, not letting the states respond to it. I'm really afraid Obama's going to get his carbon tax through this crisis. Like Rahm Emanuel said, don't let any crisis go to waste. But Terry in Ohio says they're a petroleum engineer for 12 years, worked with Halliburton. You know, I don't know why I haven't called petroleum engineers that I personally know. I mean, I guess early on I thought, okay, petroleum spill, yeah, big deal, media distraction, but it is getting crazier and crazier. So we're going to go back to Lindsey Williams. He's sitting here with us, but going to Terry. Terry, what's your take on all this?
Well, Alex, you know, I've been talking about this ever since I heard it happen, and I've I've told people right from the very beginning. First of all, I even told my wife, the only way you're going to be able to stop anything, since you got all the wreckage and pipe and everything else down on top on the well site, it'll be scattered all over the place down there because it floated to the bottom. But you had things that was connected to it also that's going to kind of like bring it down and move some pieces depending on how it fell down on the bottom. But I even said then that the only option that you would have would be to set off a small nuclear bomb. But, the thing about it is, to like seal the well, to create carterize it. But see, first of all, I told, like I was telling others, you got to look at, you're at 5,000 feet deep in water. Well, you're almost at temperature level down there is almost, close to sub-zero. You know what I mean? It's really cold down there. And then you got to figure the pounds per square inch of your salt water that weighs over 9 pounds per gallon, and then you got to figure at 5,000 feet deep, the weight there. So so you got the weight of the water, the pressure at 5,000 feet, you got the temperature factor. So you got to overcome all those. So trying to determine what size nuke to use to carterize this thing is almost impossible to figure. And here's something else you got to look at.
Well, let me ask you this question, though, and we'll get Lindsay's take on it. If you've got all these fissures, they've now confirmed, at least 2, they believe 3 or more, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles away, pluming up, is the high pressure now blowing out the casing and eroding into other channels in the rock and the seabed and coming up? And will this blast a bigger and bigger opening and potentially get worse?
Well, I figure what actually really started the fissures, I mean, they was already began when you had the blowout, because you had the different safety measures in place, even though, your blowout preventers and different things like that, they're going to hold back pressure on that. So when that began to blow out, the well practically fracked itself as far as opening up, directional fractures, because it's always going to go to the point of least resistance, okay? So, but...
Yeah, and I've heard these terms, fracking. Define fracking, but then expanding on that, what did you think about what Lindsay said about the pressure of this well that he's getting from insiders?
I agree with it, because when you're going that deep into the Earth's mantle, it would be very easy to come in contact with an oil source, an oil and gas source, but at the same time, the extreme pressures are coming from, you got your molten lava and all that stuff pushing up from the center of the Earth, so you got all those inner Earth pressures.
Well, that's another thing. They could have gone into a bathylift. For those that don't know, that's a magma bubble up into the higher levels of the crust.
Yeah, and that's true too, Alex, because I'll tell you why. It's just like I was explaining to my wife and others. You know how they're finding these like tar patties and things like that on the sands in Pensacola, Florida, and those places?
Yeah.
Okay. What causes that is this. Not only do you have extreme pressure, but that oil and gas mixture is heated, and it is so hot, okay, that it's coming up out of the ground under extreme pressure, and then when it hits that cold water, it begins to cool. It's just like a lava flow as soon as it hits the ocean.
Exactly. Now, and then all the brown stuff coming up, is that sand, dirt being propelled out? We're going to come back with Lindsay Williams. This gets worse by the minute, folks. I tell you, I'm late getting to the party on this one.